But Paul, who's under more pressure to reach the finals? Answer, Shai.
This is an easy one, Joy. It's none other than SGA. This is a guy that's become the #1 seed last year. This year was the #1 seed. And he's probably going to win MVP. So with that being said, a guy with the accomplishments who's done more in the league since being in the league as far as notoriety, being considered one of the 1 or 2 best players in the league, and being the #1 seed 2 years in a row, whereas now you've been battle-tested. Nobody had expectations for you last year. The expectations went up a notch this year, especially since Ric Bucher, our senior analyst here at Fox Sports 1, voted for SGA. So the pressure is all on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander to bring home a title this year.
Well,
Do you want to follow that, Rick?
Rick?
Let's start with the fact that I didn't vote for him.
Yeah, you didn't vote for him. He voted for Joker.
No, you voted for SGA, just said
No,
number 2,
I
right?
He did.
Number 2, though.
Yeah.
You changed your vote.
No, he had to change. Rick had to change his vote. That's what's holding up the announcement.
He was on my ballot. Oh my goodness! No, Paul is correct. It has to be Shai because, well, it hasn't been announced yet. All indications are that he is going to be MVP, and at the very least, he was one of 2 guys that was battling for MVP. Ant wasn't in that conversation, and so not only does he have to justify that he was regarded as one of the 2 best or most important players in the league, but he's leading the team with the best record in the entire Western Conference. So for that reason, he has to uphold that. All right. I just don't. In comparison, yeah, there's a lot that Ant can gain from advancing, but I just feel like Shai has to justify what we've already credited him with.
You know, there's been other guys that have won regular season MVPs that did not go on to win the NBA Finals. Mm-hmm. So, but
and we questioned their MVP worthiness as a result.
But eventually they went on to win an NBA final at some point in time in their careers. Not all, but I said some have. Mm-hmm. But when you look at Ant-Man and Anthony Edwards, there's this conversation that we had a week ago about the face of the league. Mm-hmm. All of those sort of things. Can he be the face of the league? What is he? All these comparisons. We never hear SGA compared to anybody. But we always hear Ant-Man compared to one of the great off-guard, so to speak.
Jordan all the time.
Jordan or whatever.
You
that reminds you.
We're not rubber stamping that. We're just saying that it happened.
No, I just was saying I didn't want to just Jordan. Okay, I'll do it. Jordan. You don't hear that about SGA at all, being compared to people. And so when I hear that, in order to be considered one of those guys that we compare him to, you got to get to the championship and win it. He's been in the Western Conference final 2 years in a row now. This is his second time around, although OKC has had the #1 seed. They haven't been in this position like Ant-Man. Now, Ant-Man is back in this position again with a little bit of a different team, I would say.
Yeah,
a little bit of a different team. I mean, obviously, Rudy Gobert's there and a couple other guys, there's Conley and those guys.
Julius
Randle's a new body.
And Dante DiVincenzo.
A new body. So he's here again with a couple new bodies. So it's clearly the pressure for me is for him to reach the finals is on and popping.
Yeah, I agree. It's Ant. We've already had the conversation about, yes, I am the final say on whether.
It was no. Yeah. It was okay. I won.
He and I won because I said so. No, I think it's Ant because it's not that there is no pressure on Shai. There is. But they're kind of new here. They're kind of ascending. The expectations are high, but if it goes to a Game 7 and they don't go to the finals, we'll expect them to be back next year. We'll have said this was a great season. Maybe they fell short of getting to the finals, but we're not going to start having conversations about are we putting Shai up too far, or are we elevating him too quickly? We had the conversation about Ant last year, about him being the face of the league and the next superstar to step up and take a hold of the NBA. He's controversial. He's old school. He's Jordan-esque. He brings the He brings the attitude that the NBA is overall missing when we have these conversations about, you know, competitive nature and rivalries. Like, all of that is Ant. And we're all paying attention to what he does. And let's be honest, so far through the postseason, he's had some moments, but it's not like he has been completely dominant throughout the postseason, even though they're here. He's their most important player. He's their best player, but he has still had, to me, to have that real signature moment. He has that opportunity to do that here. He is somebody that we are waiting to crown. We're waiting. Everyone is just foaming at the mouth to give it to him because he's done the work. He's been exciting. He has keys, snap, crackle, pop. He's been in the Western Conference Finals multiple times. He's a multiple-time All-Star. He is an electric player that could very easily slide into that role. And we are now seeing, particularly in these conference finals, a bit of the, you know, handing of the baton to the young guys. The old guard is not there.
For sure.
Think about it this way in a much easier fashion. OKC versus Indy, or the Knicks versus Minnesota, or Minnesota versus Indy. I believe that most of us would rather see Minnesota, as much as we like SGA, we would rather see Minnesota in the NBA Finals because of Ant-Man and that snack crackle pop.
Professional integrity, Rick can
I don't care about no professional integrity. I would rather. It ain't on my network here at Fox, so I don't give a damn.
I mean, I agree. But he's the star of the conference finals to me. He's the one that everyone is paying the most attention. Yeah.
And
he's
then
the one I think everyone is paying the most attention to.
Between him and Bronson, those are the two for me.
Yes. So I think he's under more pressure to reach the finals.
My pushback on that is simply that he's 23 years old. Like, there's so much more room for Ant to evolve and reach that status. And not to say that just because SGA is a... What's that?
That's a great thing. Because he's at the beginning stages right now at 23 years old.
But that lessens the pressure. I'm just wondering, Paul, when you guys, like, formed the Big Three, like, and those expectations, did you feel a pressure, and did you feel like you had the most pressure
100%.
to win a championship that year?
100%. I mean, I remember, like, because when we put the team together, they was like, oh, they gonna win it. We was on the cover of every magazine, every publication. It was like, people was coming out like, oh, y'all just handed them the championship. So that's pressure is a privilege.
Yeah.
We appreciated that. Okay, I've been waiting my whole career to somebody say you should be winning the championship. I was like, okay, expectations, I love it.
What did it feel like for you to put that team together, though? For you, when you put that team
I didn't put the team together, Key. I wish because if I had put the team together, I would have did it 5 years earlier.
Yeah.
Well, it's getting started tonight. The Eastern Conference Finals tip off tomorrow night. Tyrese Haliburton and the Pacers are back in the conference finals for the second year in a row, facing Jalen Brunson and the Knicks. It's a renewal of the Indiana-New York rivalry from the 90s, and Haliburton talked about it during his media session yesterday. Kind of. Yeah. So, Rick, what are your expectations for the newest chapter of this rivalry?
I think it's going to be spicy. I think it's going to be sizzling. I think it's going to live up to what we saw with Reggie Miller and John Starks way back in the 90s.
Really?
When that got hot. Yes, because I think that they are very evenly matched. I think we have a lot of names that aren't necessarily household names in Aaron Nesmith and Andrew Nembhard. And maybe you apply that if Josh Hart was playing any place else. I don't know that we'd know him or OG Anunoby. But all these guys have an opportunity to stake a claim to something, and there's some leftover blood from last year that was so competitively fought. There you go. That's Reggie and a little Spike Lee action. I think Reggie's going to be on the mic broadcasting the game, so that's going to add to the flavor. But I think they're both teams that are comfortable playing physical. And the league is allowing a physicality now that we haven't seen in a long time. And I think both of these teams are going to lean into that. And so you may not, going into it, you may be thinking of Indianapolis as Naptown. It's one of its nicknames.
For sure, Naptown.
But you're going to be pleasantly surprised, Key. You're going to be glued to your set.
I will be.
Game 2.
And the reason I will be because it's the Knicks. not because it's the Pacers.
You got to have a nemesis. You got to
Yeah, but it's just
got to have that enemy.
But I think it's
got to have the villain.
I think it's going to be fun. And we mentioned the Reggie Miller days and the Spike Lee. All of those sort of things are going to come back because you got a whole new wave of celebrity types sitting in the front row now.
And you got people that have never heard of that team.
And you still got Spike Lee sitting there. So you're going to have that's the fun part for me is being able to watch them go back and forth and battle. They had a little bit in the second round last year, but then obviously the Knicks kind of fell apart with injuries and whatnot. So you really didn't get a full grasp of what that series really could have been. I think if they're fully healthy and everybody stays healthy for the most part, it'll be a fun 6-7 games.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think I'm more excited about this conference finals than I am on the West side for the simple fact these two teams played together last year, and I like, you know what, it's great having New York finally in the conference finals since I was a baby. You know, and the Pacers, you know, them doing what they did is a surprise. Now, we call it a rivalry, but is it a rivalry? I really don't know because the last memory I have, maybe last year, the Knicks were hobbled, but before that, it was like I said, I was a baby.
Yep.
You know, it was Reggie Miller and all them guys, and so. But what my expectations for this? I think this is going to be a hard-fought series, and when the tough get going, I'm going to expect the New York Knicks to fold. That's right, they're going to fold when it going gets tough.
This is carryover.
When the going gets tough, they're going to fold like a bad hand and a poker hand on the river. They're going to fold. Okay. That's what I expect. If it gets the pressure gets put on them, muck it.
You are on one today.
Oh. What did they put in your coconut water today?
Salt.
I'm serious.
That has nothing to do with the fact that the Knicks beat the Celtics, right?
Maybe a little.
I think it's going to be a fun series also. I think both of these series actually are going to go 7. Yeah, just, sorry.
Joy, come over here. I got the Luka.
Luka ain't gonna live that down.
I got the Luka lip.
Oh, no. Now we have a name for it. I think this will be a very fast series with a lot of energy. I know the Knicks are playing really physical, but I think there will be a lot of physicality in this series. As you mentioned, the refs are letting guys play throughout the postseason. But this one will feel like a lot of energy, a lot of diving on the floor, a lot of extra plays, a lot
of blue-collar guys out there.
Yeah, bringing their lunch pail.
Yep, the hard hats and the lunch pails.
The steel-toe boots. All of that in this series is what I think.
Steel-toed boots as the Knicks gave the Celtics.
I think we're going to get a lot of old-school basketball in this series. I think we're going to get a lot of the new school in OKC Wolves.
You also have some trash talkers here.
Yeah.
I mean, Ty has shown that he's not willing to, or he's not afraid to mix it up. Josh Hart will speak his piece. Like I think Cat. I think the recipe is there.
Who got the enforcer? Is it the Knicks got more of an enforcer style, or the Pacers?
No, I think it's pretty equal because I think Nesmith is physical. I think Nembhard is physical.
Yeah.
I think
Thorin bring attitude.
Benedict Mathurin will talk some junk.
No, he a champ. He tough down there.
Oh, that's gonna be good then. Pushing and shoving, an elbow or two.
Don't you want the team that beat your team to win? Like, so you feel like you lost to
you got to jump on that New York Knicks bandwagon.
New York and Boston, we just don't like them in no sports.
Yeah.
Baseball, football.
It's fair.
Hockey, basketball. We don't like New York.
A major trade last offseason worked out for the two of the remaining playoff teams. The Timberwolves traded Karl-Anthony Towns to the Knicks for Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo. Minnesota made it to the Western Conference Finals last year with Cat, while the Knicks were knocked out in the second round. So, Paul, who do you think has benefited from the trade more, the Knicks or the Timberwolves?
Well, I'm gonna tell you the Knicks definitely benefited more for the simple fact that unless the Timberwolves get to the finals and win it, because they were in the conference finals last year, the Knicks, listen to this, this is their first time in the conference finals in 20-plus years. So they get the benefit of the doubt. And, you know, they've earned it. You know, they got lucky. I mean, no, but the fact that they're there is great. And so I want to say, hey, because originally I said that the Wolves won the trade. But that still has yet to be seen. But for right now, it's the Knicks because they're in the conference finals and they haven't been there in quite some time.
Yeah, I just back Paul up with that. When you think about it, it's the Knicks. They haven't been in conference final for quite some time. Minnesota was just there last year. So there wasn't really a drop-off for them, but there was a raise in elevation for the Knicks because all of a sudden, Karl-Anthony Towns became a guy, a main centerpiece for them. They got him, and they gave up a number of assets just to get him, and they got to a place that they were not in last year, which is the Eastern Conference Finals. So we'll see in the end if they make it to the finals versus the Wolves make it to the finals. But as of right now, it's the Knicks because they wasn't there in the past.
Yeah, I agree for that reason. But what do you think, Slick?
I think it benefited both. I thought it was a great trade for both sides, and largely because
Pick one. You over there.
I'm going to lean Timberwolves.
All right, well, tell us why.
Because
You're trying to play both sides of the
Debo
field.
over here,
You're
man.
trying to play both sides. Come on.
Paul, leave. I'll be talking.
I'm going to take a steel-toed boot to somebody. Man.
No, that's my boy. That's my boy. I love it.
All right, good.
Slick, what are your thoughts?
Look, what I love about the trade is the fact that the primary pieces, Julius Randle and Karl-Anthony Towns, were kind of misfit in their places. Cat was the incumbent star, and then Anthony Edwards rises, and Karl-Anthony Towns was having a hard time adjusting to that. Well, you send him to New York, and you already have Jalen Brunson established, so Cat kind of slides into the same spot, but he's doing it in a more comfortable way. I would say Julius Randle had the same situation. Like, he was the incumbent when Jalen Brunson came to town and kind of blew up, and then he goes to Minnesota, and he takes the number 2 role, but he does it happily. So it benefited both of those guys. The reason I lean Minnesota is because they also got Dante DiVincenzo in the mix. And while, yes, they made it to the Western Conference Finals last year, I'm not sure that they'd have 2 gentlemen sweep and be the team that they are right now if they hadn't made the trade. Just because you got there before doesn't mean you're going to get there again. And this overall, right now, when I look at the Timberwolves, for all that Cat has done in New York, I feel like this is a better Timberwolves team than I saw last year.
Yeah.
And so for that reason, I think it benefited both, but I'm asked to pick a side. I'm going to take the Timberwolves.
There we go.
There you go.
Subscribe here to get the latest from Speak, and go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.